Hey everyone, it's Sam here with Thermo Cosplay, and today marks actually almost today, like a couple weeks from today, 2 weeks from today, marks my 7th year being a cosplayer. So I figured why don't I do like a cos talk on CosChat on all the stuff that I have done, where I started, where little baby Sam began, the first costume I created, and we're just gonna go through a history of thermo cosplay. If you have any questions today, please feel free to ask those questions. I am perfectly open to answering questions today, and I am going to go ahead and load some of the stuff that I'd like to share with you guys here on the side because I need to see it. But thermo cosplay started in 2014. I had seen cosplayers. I actually started as a comic book artist, and I had witnessed cosplayers. I think it was at Phoenix Comic Con 2013 or 2012. I witnessed cosplayers walking around dressed up, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, why am I not doing this? Why am I not dressing up? Why am I not wearing outfits and stuff? What's going on? So I decided to go ahead and, you know what? I'm going to become a cosplayer, and I'm going to do this because this looks really, really cool. Also, I think I need to turn one of my lights off. Like, I think, we're fine. We're just going to leave the lighting how it is. Sorry, guys. But when I started with cosplay, I just really wasn't sure what it was. And then I learned about Kamui cosplay, and Kamui was amazing. So what I did was, I'm like, I want to learn about more of this stuff. And I bought some of her books, and I went on to YouTube, and I just explored the wonderful world of cosplay. And here we are now as Thermo Cosplay. And I'm just going to walk you through the journey. First and foremost, the very first costume I made was made out of thermoplastic. So I used Warbler, and it it was a journey. Let me open this up and show you guys the journey of thermo cosplay. So I've made to date probably close to 60 costumes for myself and for others. It's crazy to think that I've made that many costumes, but I have. Wild. And in this 7-year journey, I've learned quite a bit about like all the different materials. And this time too, cosplay has become far more commercial, so getting materials has become a lot easier as well. And then I've had a couple sponsorships, so I've had a chance to experiment with materials that were up and coming, which was really exciting. But the first costume I made was with Warbler's, just original art. And I made my own rendition of a Diablo 3 demon hunter. Oh, baby Sam was just, let me open up this document I have here. So I'll share with you guys all of the progress that they've done. So the very first costume, as I've mentioned, was a Diablo 3 demon hunter. I didn't know what I was doing at this time. I didn't know that Warbler was completely reusable. So unfortunately, I did waste a little bit of Warbler in the beginning. But since then, I have not wasted anything. I learned how my products work and what to use them for. I will go through like all the products I've used and how I started with it. But my very first outfit was a Diablo 3 demon hunter. I recorded everything because I wanted to remember what I was doing. I used the saran wrap and masking tape method. So I literally just kind of wrapped myself up and started creating patterns, drawing it on, and then I cut myself out. This was also the first time that I learned, this is also the first time I learned that you should not cut yourself out of your own patterns. You should have someone help you, because I did end up like hurting myself because I cut myself out of my patterns. That was unpleasant. But I did start with this first foam template. I made it out of foam. I was like, oh, this is really cool looking. This will be fun. Let's do foam. And it didn't work out well. So then the second one was foam. The very first costume was Warbler. And these were the first boob cups. They weren't very good. So then I had to go on and make the new boob cups, which were far better. The new boob cups worked a lot, actually worked as they were supposed to, and they ended up fitting me properly. It was just a better idea. So let me go down a little bit further, but this is where you can see that I was doing the original breastplate, and it was just too small. Like, first I started with tiny cups. Those were too small. Then I started with like a full Kamui's full tutorial on how to make a bra, and I built up on top of that, and that also ended up being too small. So next I just went through and I made the same method, made the cups much bigger, exaggerated them, and then I used nylon rope covered in Warblood to create the outline for the armor, and this worked much better. So there I actually had a proper breastplate, and it fit, and I was able to wear it. For the shoulders, it was a lot of guesswork. I did measure I measured around my arms, and I figured out how all of that worked. And I also didn't know how I was doing. Like, I did D-rings and stuff like that, but I had a lot of string attaching everything to me. And so I ended up cutting myself in the beginning because I didn't know how to wear the armor properly. And when I was fitting the shoulders, I realized that one side was like higher than the other, but I didn't know how to correct it. And you just learn things the first time you make a costume. I also, for some reason, my first costume, I don't know why my first costume was a demon hunter, but I also decided to work with leather. And I don't know if you guys have worked with leather and or vinyl. That's not a good first choice for fabric. But Warblood was a lot more forgiving than foam. And so it taught me a lot about how to painting, and I sealed it with wood glue, and then I painted it with really nice acrylic paints, and I sealed it with a Mod Podge matte sealant. And overall, the armor is still has held up to today, but it just doesn't fit right, and it's very uncomfortable to wear. So even though I could still wear it if I wanted to, this Demon Hunter version of the Demon Hunter has been retired and has been replaced with one where I actually used the saran wrap and tape method, made it all out of foam, so it's super lightweight. And then I modified a pair of boots. I even replaced the leather on the boots. And I took all my Warbler scraps and started using them for the detail work and to reinforce the foam so that it would last longer. I used anti-fatigue mats to reinforce the boob cups so that the curve would be correct. And overall, I ended up with a much better breastplate and backplate for my Demon Hunter armor. So this version worked out much nicer. I also started learning how to use Quick Seal to hide seams for this, and I was much, much happier with the second go. But the first go wasn't too bad. I mean, the costume came out nice. It was all held on by twine and tons of different. It was just really uncomfortable. I'm just going to say that. It was super uncomfortable to wear. And in Arizona, wearing that much leather in the summer was a really bad idea. So that was my very first costume. It was, like I said, a Diablo 3 Demon Hunter. And it was probably not the best choice. I highly recommend that if you're going to start with costuming, maybe don't start with something that is leather and Warbler and corsetry, and the list goes on. Find something. Also pay attention to how the weather is in your area or where you're going, and be very careful with what you're doing. Yeah, right. So Ray said that they've tried the duct tape method several times to make chin guards, and it never seems to work. So yeah, so for oh goodness, I forgot. Like, there's a specific name for, it starts with a G, for armor that goes around the neck and the chin. And what I ended up doing for armor such as that, I actually have I think I've got a little tutorial around here somewhere that I'll find for you. But I have had problems with stuff like that as well. And I did, here we go with my foam scale templates. So I ended up getting a plastic mannequin head. Anytime I'm trying to work on something around my chin or my neck, it is very, very difficult. Oh, Shin Armor. Yeah, Shin Armor was Shin Armor. So if you're talking about Shin Armor, yeah, the duct tape and saran wrap method. So anytime you do, just so you know, anytime you wrap yourself in saran wrap and then you duct tape yourself on there, so you can wrap yourself in saran wrap, but don't wrap yourself too tight. And then with the tape, instead of wrapping it, tear off pieces and lay it down, because the more you wrap around, the smaller you end up making your pattern. And even if you go loose, you'll want to cut that pattern off and add another 1/2 inch around the seam or the outline, and then try it on and trim away, because with foam and a lot of other objects, it's easier to trim away than it is to add. So, but yeah, neck armor is tough. So what I do is I buy hat stands, like male hat stands that are actual mannequin heads that have like the head, the neck, and the shoulders. And I'll show you what I do for this. And I literally just formed the foam around it. So what I did is I took elastic, and I put the elastic around the neck, because elastic can be adjustable, and you can add and remove Velcro or snaps as you please. And so I built the, why can't I remember what the word is for this armor piece? I can't remember, but I built the foam and I laid scales around, but you could do the same thing with small foam, and you could heat around these particular mannequin heads because they're so durable. This one I think is a plastic lined fiberglass. It's crazy. But this was the only way I could achieve proper neck armor. And it worked out pretty well. I made the chin a little too big. I forgot that my chin sits a little bit further back. But this was the first neck piece. I still own this neck piece that actually fit me comfortable, and I could move my neck, and I had no problems with it. And the elastic moves with my body. So I highly suggest building like an elastic choker and then putting the foam over the top of it and gluing that on so that you have some flexibility. It is so helpful to do something like that. Again, this is a cosplay Q&A and a story of thermal cosplay and how I've grown, and maybe you don't make the same mistakes I do, or maybe you do and you just have fun along the way. But I started with a really difficult costume and worked my way up. So I'm going to try and give you as many tips as I can today on how to save money and conserve your time and avoid making these mistakes, so that when you get to crafting, depending on what you're doing, I can show you how to make that happen. If you have questions on a specific thing, like I've done sculpting and mold making and resin casting and foam smithing, thermoplastics, sewing. I really love making bodysuits, but if there is something specific that you would like to learn today, please post it in the comments and I will pull up some reference images and I will show it to you. But for instance, I've already shared with you guys the first costume I made, which is the Demon Hunter. The second costume I made, I decided to take a step back and go, you know what? That was really complicated with the armor build. Let's just make a dress and a jacket. Let's go really simple. So I chose Yin from Darker Than Black. And this was the second costume. I didn't have any sewing experience. I had to reach out to my grandma and ask her how to install a zipper and how to read patterns. And then once she taught me how to read patterns, I went on from there. And after that, I learned that I hate patterns because I'm too tall for them and I have to add so much length. It's easier now for me to either find a shirt or a jacket at a thrift store that fits and then break it apart and turn it into a pattern, or just make them from scratch by like putting them on my mannequin and drafting them. But I know that that's not easy to draft patterns. So hi, Matt. Thank you. And hi, Raze. Well, I don't know if I said hi, but if you aren't good at pattern drafting, but you hate like patterns that are bot patterns, like the little flimsy patterns you get from fabric stores, then I highly recommend going to a thrift store and finding something that fits you exactly and take it apart, with a seam ripper and use that as your pattern, because you can keep reusing it, you can wash it, you can iron it, you can fold it up super tight. And I honestly feel like those are so much easier to use, especially since it fits your body. But the second costume I ever made was back in 2014 for SalbotinCon, and I did Yin from Darker Than Black. This is also my first experience with contacts, and I am incredibly blind, so finding a pair of contacts that had my prescription was amazing, but getting them to stay in my right eye, which is a little bit grumpier, was not so amazing. But for this, I did use a bot pattern. I didn't know how to do the scalloping on the edges, so instead I used some lace, For the mask, I used leftover warbler scraps, mushed them together, and just kind of painted it on. And I took an existing little stuffed animal and I modified it a little bit, and I sewed on a little cute collar for it to be my Mao. But this costume was a lot simpler. I also finally learned, hey, as you're making it, try it on, keep testing it, keep testing it. I still have this costume. I didn't line it. I didn't know that you were supposed to line dresses at the time. So a couple years down the road, the seams started fraying apart. So I've since corrected them, and I intend to line it because this costume is still really beautiful, still works incredibly well. I've had to take it in a lot to fit me because I was considerably larger when I first made this, but it works amazing. And all I need to do is just find a nice purple slip that I can sew to the inside of it, because this fabric unfortunately is no longer made, and so finding the exact color has been nearly impossible for me. But I was able to locate a slip that I think I can kind of insert to the skirt so that I won't have to treat the seams again if they start fraying. I did fray check them, and well, I burned and then fray checked them to try and keep the dress very solid and intact. But I did a lot of fitting. I had a mannequin this time around that actually fit me. I kept testing and pinning and trying on, which I didn't do the first time I did my Demon Hunter, which is why I had so many uncomfortable fit problems. And I also actually did mock-ups with spare fabric on this one, which is something I had not done the first time around. So as you can see, I had plenty of extra purple fabric, so I made the jacket with the purple fabric first, and then I made it with black velvet because black velvet's not forgiving, black suede is not forgiving, and I knew that if I messed it up, the suede was really expensive, and at this time I was still saving money and stuff like that for cosplay, so I wasn't sure what to do. But this was my first experience with sewing. It was just kind of like a multi-panel dress, and it didn't turn out too bad. Like I said, I didn't do the scalloped edge. I just did lace, and I actually like the lace better. I don't like spiky edges on dresses. They look weird to me. But, I looked like the character. My wig sat too far back because I didn't have a wig grip, and my wig kept falling off all day long. But that's okay. I wore it for the first time to Sabaton Con, and it didn't turn out too bad. You learn as you go. Things don't always go the way you expect. But I went from a demon hunter to an anime character, to Yin from Darker Than Black, and that ended up working out much, much better. Yeah, yay, say hello. So the very first convention I ever went to was Phoenix Comic-Con, I think 2012. And then in 2013, I exhibited it as a comic artist and sold out of all of my stock in 2 days, which was shocking. And then in 2014, I decided to be a cosplayer for the first time. So that's kind of been my Comic-Con nerd journey. I've been reading comics and watching anime well before I went to conventions, but I didn't know where everything was. I wasn't as well-versed in the nerd community. I was a sheltered nerd. And hello everybody, thank you for joining. So everyone knows I do stream to Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube simultaneously. So if you're like, I don't see that comment, it's probably because it's on another platform. Again, if you have any questions or you want to see a specific skill set that I have done in the past 7 years, please let me know. But I've walked you through the first 2 costumes, my Demon Hunter and Yin from Darker Than Black. From there, I really don't know what was next because I've made so many costumes since then. So there's a huge list here of all these different things that I've made, and not all of my completed cosplays are on this list because some of them I threw in other folders. I really need to reorganize. My cosplay list is intense, so there's a lot that's going on. But I did start in 2014, and I did start with with Phoenix Comic-Con, and then it was Sabaton, and then after that, I finally learned, maybe I should start taking my own pictures because, then my second one was actually, I forgot, it was Elizabeth. See, this is more work in progress. This is Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite. So what I did is I went to a thrift store and I bought a white shirt that had pleating in the front because I wasn't sure how to make a shirt at this time. And it was a men's shirt, so I had to take I had to remove the side seams, take it in by 3 inches, remove part of the sleeves, take that in by 2 inches, and then I had to cinch in the waist as well. So there's a lot of tailoring that was involved for this particular shirt. And then the skirt, I just did a circle skirt. I did 2 layers, and I made it larger than it needed to be so that I could add pleating on the side. So when you see it on the mannequin here, I actually have a whole lot of it pulled up in the back. So I want to say I went 6 inches larger in the waist to get all of the excess fabric that I needed on the side. And I'd never done pleating before, so I did goof up a little bit here. I also, for some reason, decided to spray paint the fabric instead of lining it with gold bias, which meant I could not wash this skirt. So after about a year, the fabric sort of started falling apart. Lessons learned. I intend to remake this costume. It was super easy to do and it's super comfortable. And now I'm going to use gold bias and actually use snaps so that I can pull the pleats together or separate them, whatever I wish to do. But I found another Elizabeth when I was at this convention. It was really exciting. This is also the first time I helped Stevie Spade cosplay with her armor. I feel terrible. Like, I did not know how to do fitted armor at the time. So now I've learned a lot. But like the Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite, I had to figure out how to do the skirt. And I'd never styled a wig before other than Yin, which was styled horribly. So I had to learn how to curl a wig, and synthetic wigs curl a lot different. But yeah, you know, and I wasn't exactly like the character, but I got as close as possible. And that's not a bad, like, sometimes you don't have to be exact, precise. You guys even see what I'm showing. You're not, I'm trying to share this with you guys and you can't even see it. It didn't share it. Sorry. So this is what I was talking about the whole 5 minutes I've been talking. I apologize. It's just, I'm terrible. But this is what I was talking about right here. This is the costume I made. This is Elizabeth from Bioshock Infinite. And these are all of the pictures I was referencing that you guys couldn't actually see. But this is what I mean that I have just costumes everywhere. And I went from making armor to sewing a lot because I wanted to learn more about sewing. And I used a lot of stretch knits and spandex or stretch polyesters. And if I had to, like, if it was a non-stretch, I probably went to a thrift store to buy it because I didn't know how to make shirts. Shirts were really hard for me in the beginning. And then I got much better at them. But yeah, you have to start somewhere. I also helped Lena, who's my cosplay partner, do her son from Princess Mononoke. And I made her little headpiece right here out of Wonderflex. And I, again, for the rope-like look, I literally took nylon rope and wrapped it in Warbler. And for her fur, this is back in 2014. This is when we went to IKEA and we're like, oh, cool, fur rug. And we literally just added ties to it and Velcro to the top of the mask, and inside the mask are sunglasses so that when she puts it on, she can walk around outside and it's not super bright. And she can still see through it. Because I've seen a lot of people make this mask and you can't actually see through the eyes. And I'm like, she wants to be able to walk around in this. So let's make sure that she can. And then we also wanted to make it to where she could take off different pieces like the headpiece or the shoulders for the fur and wear it because it was a little bit heavy. But yeah, that's kind of where Thermo started. First, it was me cosplaying, and then Lena started joining in with me. And I've known Lena's basically my sister in all but blood. I've known Lena since elementary school, so, and she is family. And we've done a lot together. But I started going to Phoenix Comic Con. And then I went to Sabotin Con, then Mesa Comic and Media Expo, which alas does not exist anymore. And then from there, I started making more cosplay friends. And the next costume that I made was Jinx from Teen Titans. I did not know how to make her costume, so I actually did not make an accurate costume of her. I just did a fake costume. And so it wasn't too bad, but it definitely wasn't like legit Jinx. And I ended up hanging out with Amber Bright props, and she was so kind. She actually ended up, we met for the first time with her seeing she was looking for help on foam. And I was like, I know how to foam smith. And like, we met for the first time at my house, two random strangers making foam boob plates. It was awesome. But the cool thing about the Teen Titans that was really beneficial for me was I learned how to cast in resin. And I had never cast in resin before. So I'm going to open this so you can see the photo bigger. But I took some flouring cups, which are used in a baking section, and you use them to make flowers, and then you take the flowers off and you put them on cakes or cupcakes or whatever. But I used flouring cups, and I sealed the back of the cups with some kind of a waxy substance, and I poured the resin into it, and then I popped out the resin, and boom, I had like this perfect gem setting. And then we also took some silicone candy molds that were meant for chocolate domes, and we poured the clear cast resin in there along with some glitter and some fabric dye, let it cure for 32 hours, and then popped it out, epoxied the clear cast gems to the pure resin, and we had a belt. Now you can see that right here on Lena on a Raven, the gems are actually not glued onto the belt. What we ended up doing was, while the resin was curing, we dipped the metal belt into the resin, and then once it finished curing after 20 minutes, we pulled it out, and the metal is actually inside the resin, and it worked beautifully. For her hands and for her neck, we did have to epoxy, I believe. I think we put like those little pins, those safety pin like snap things. I can't remember what they're called, but we did put like button pins on the back, and that way she could pin it onto different fabric sides. But yeah, we had fun. This is my first time working with pleather. I did not know how terrible pleather was. Now I'm really good at it. Stretchy material is my thing. But we had fun. This is like our first time really going out together with random people and just experiencing a convention. And going all day in a costume, because we really had only spent a couple hours at a time in a costume at this point. And we were goofy. But I also didn't know how to spike Jinx wigs. So like I made like a Jinx costume, sort of Jinx. You do what you can when you're still learning, guys. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, so I'll show you too. So that was the first time I did Jinx, right? Well, like I think a year later at Mesa Comic and Media Expo, I decided I was going to do Jinx again. And oh my goodness, it was a lot different this time around. I figured out how to style a wig. I knew what I was doing this time. The dress ended up looking so much more like the character. So after, it just took a little bit of time and a little bit of change, and boom, I had like a legit Jinx. So I still have these really, really, really dark. It's okay. You know what? Everybody makes mistakes, but here, I want to open the photos and show you the photos themselves so you guys can see closer, because for some reason my window isn't zooming in as far as I want. But I did actually learn how to make her outfit later on, and it ended up working out much better. I also learned how to use Angelus leather paint to paint boots. And I learned how to resin cast gems a little bit better. And yeah, so I'd say the second time around, it looked a lot more like her outfit. And I got thicker tights too. This is just me being crazy, because why not? I mean, why not come running towards the camera and jump? Because guys, this is also, if you want to learn how to take photos, be crazy, move around, do wild things that make no sense, and you'll always end up catching something really cool at some point, right? Because the wind was blowing, and there were a couple shots in here that were like, this is so cool. This is fun. Like, it just, I'm flying. Only I wasn't. I also tripped there. I like landed wrong. It was funny. And I had a bad habit when I was taking photos. Before I would jump, I would bite my lip. I had to teach myself not to bite my lip before or after jumping. This is literally a video of me being, it's not even a video, it's just, this is how many photos we took in like sports mode. And yeah, just have fun. Some of the best shots happen when you're goofing off. And yeah, it was fun. It was great. It was just Raven and Jinx being Raven and Jinx. But that just goes to show you that you can evolve, right? You can change. Your costume can adjust, and you can go from starting in one version, and then the next one's amazing. It's even better. And then the next one after that is even better. And so you never know where you're going to end up. And I ended up I did end up figuring out how to style the wig better in the future too. So just have fun with things. It was funny because the first time I went to a convention, like I said, was 2012. And then 2013, I went to Phoenix Comic Con. And then 2014, I went to Phoenix Comic Con and Sabotain Con and Mesa Comic and Media Expo and Phoenix Fan Fest and Tucson Comic Con. So I went from just doing like one con a year to 5. And then the following year, I think I went to 10. So it escalated quickly. Maybe don't escalate quickly. Maybe like tone it down a little bit. But after doing Jinx, I decided, I got really excited. I got lucky. I was at I think it was at Phoenix Comic Con that Alan Amos Creations was doing a giveaway of his Dragon Age Inquisition helmet. And I was like, oh, this helmet is amazing. I loved the game. I was like, I'm really excited about this helmet. I really hope I win it. And I actually won the helmet. And at first I thought it was a scam, but then I legitimately won this helmet. So Lena and I decided we were going to go all out. Lena's always wanted to do this character named Dawn from a comic series that's like crazy, but she had these wild boots, and she found these boots, and we're like, all right, we're going to get a dress. We're going to make a sword. We're going to go have so much fun. And I was like, since I won a Dragon Age Inquisition helmet, I am going to be a Inquisitor. So let me open up some of these photos and here. Also, I'm going to mention something, and I got corrected for this too, because it was early on, right? So I got photos taken of me as the Inquisitor, and I was super excited about this. I was like sharing photos everywhere, and this is Lena and I. She's Dawn, and I'm the Inquisitor. And then I got this photo from a place called Soulwire, and then they told me, hey, you shouldn't edit photographers' photos. I didn't know about any of this, right? This is like beginning baby Sam learning stuff, so please learn the lesson before me. I learned it, and have not touched photographers' photos, because you do not want to edit photographers' photos unless they give you permission. Some photographers I've worked with have been like, I'm just going to do the raws, and then they send me the raws and I do the editing. You want to have that contractually, like in writing or somewhere. Like, don't do it only verbal. You want to have it in writing through like Messenger or email, stating how you're going to take the photos and who's going to edit what and what they're going to deliver. That's really important as a cosplayer. If you're going to a convention, or if you're going to a professional shoot, or if you're just getting photos taken of your costume, you'll want to establish in writing what you can and cannot do with the photos that the photographer provides for you. So that's a good lesson for everybody to learn. Just know that. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, but also learn from those mistakes. So this is my first time, I think, on stage. I don't know why I decided to. There's a lot of Dragon Age photos. And this is Lena as Cry for Dawn, Dawn from A Cry for Dawn. And I believe this is the one that we took like a broom handle or some kind of leftover handle, and we put it inside 2 pieces of 6mm anti-fatigue floor mats. And then she took Sculpey and she sculpted the rose and the thorns. And then we took a legit real chain and we put chains on her arms and chains on her sword. This is before metal was like not allowed in conventions. And we just went wild. This is also the first time I learned how to do like teardrop makeup and stuff so that it would flow naturally over her cheek. And I messed up a little bit, but not too bad for a first time try. Makeup is an important part of cosplay. It's how you get amazing photos. So since then, we have learned how to do better cover up, how to do better eyeliner. You got to learn somewhere. Also, we learned about posing and how to make sure that we don't have weird hot body poses. This was again me using Warbler, and I've become much more experienced with Warbler at this point. I learned how to connect it to my body and put it on. And so this costume was much more comfortable than my previous costume. And then for the feet, I made those out of foam because the Warbler kept digging into my calves. Just the way I walk, it was uncomfortable for me. And so you do you figure out what works best for you. Also, I don't know why I wore such a long wig for this character, but the wig was like all the way down to my butt. It was really weird. As like amazing helmet by Alan Amos Creations. So that was the full costume as the Inquisitor. So I once again went from cosplay armor to sewing to cosplay armor and sewing, and again brought back in my leather and vinyl because apparently I'm obsessed with leather and vinyl. But got some comments. Yay, Sabo. Yeah, I did do Jinx. I haven't worn that costume in a while. And then Chris is like, hi, Chris. It's going good today. I'm just talking about the cosplay journey and all the lessons I've learned and all the costumes I've made. We're not going to get through all my costumes. Like I said, I've made and or worn over 60. So we are not going to get through all of them. It's not going to happen. And then Ray says that they're starting on makeup learning process for pictures and theater makeup. Yeah, so the thing I had to learn was I react to certain makeup types. So I had to go through a series of makeups to figure out what I was reacting to, what pigments I could and could not wear, what types of makeup I could and could not wear, and then what kind of sealants I could use. And once I got through that, it worked. Now, I don't advise you testing this on your skin because I wound up with hives that took weeks to heal and other things. I recommend testing it on the underside of your arm and walking around your house and seeing if you have any reactions. Anytime you wear makeup, you don't want to wear it for the first time at an event or at a photo shoot and then wind up with a reaction. Like I found out I'm severely allergic to spirit gum when I was just trying to wear a pair of elf ears, and all of a sudden my ear turned red. It started burning like it was on fire. It was excruciating. It was so painful. So I can't have latex touch my skin from here up. Now from here down, no problem with the latex. So neck up, latex and my skin are like, nope, won't get along. So I had to learn what my body could handle as well. And that's the thing a lot of cosplayers forget about is it's not just learning what makeup your body can handle, it's also learning how much weight you can carry on your shoulders and your hips. Some armor is really, really heavy, and if you're going to be wearing it for 8 to 10 hours, you need to figure out either an easy way to release it so you can take a break, or condition yourself to carry that much weight, or just understand that you're going to have to make it out of much lighter materials to handle it. So be sure that can you use the bathroom? Can you eat? Can you get out of it fast in an emergency? Do you need a handler to help you walk around? Can you wear this for the extended period of time? Will this makeup react to you? Is this going to work in a hot environment or a cold environment? Just really consider all of these factors when you're wearing a costume. I learned all of it for you. But after 2014, I started experimenting a lot. I messed up a lot. I made a Go-Go Tamago from Big Hero 6, and it failed completely. The costume actually broke while I was walking around the con, and I just went back to my car and pretty much took everything off and just said no. I also remade Jinx again. Like, literally, I was obsessed with making Jinx. I think I made her like 5 times before I was like, this is the Jinx that I like. I was crazy. You don't have to make a character as many times as I did. But this one did turn out pretty good. So like, I'll show you a picture. This Jinx was a lot closer to what the character actually looks like. So this is my 3rd attempt at Jinx, and it actually didn't turn out too bad. Oh, that's Go-Go's hair. Why is it going to Go-Go? Go to there we go. So that's weird. That picture corrupted. But yeah, this is my 3rd time at Jinx, and I incorporated a corset so that I could, as I was gaining or losing weight, at this time I was losing a considerable amount of weight, I could keep taking it in, and then I would be able to wear the outfit multiple times. And I believe this is the one that I actually still wear. So yeah. sometimes you just really like a character, and I apparently really liked Jinx. But after all of those costumes, the next costume that I decided to do that was pretty big was I had my family, and we all decided that we wanted to do Borderlands. So I helped I helped a lot of people in our Borderlands group make their costumes. So let me go to my folder where the Borderlands builds are. Here we go. Okay, so we worked together as a team. Oh, real quick before I go into this, Ray said that your Sesshomaru pants fell apart at the seams at Phoenix Comic-Con 2019. No! One time, back in ye old when it was still called Phoenix Comic-Con, we were out walking, and not only did my boots melt off because it was so hot, and we had to use duct tape to keep them on because I was competing that day. That was fun. But we literally watched this girl. She's like trying to get to her hotel room, and everyone's around her trying to protect her because literally her clothing, she had hot glued her clothing, right? She thought it would survive in Arizona's heat. And it's literally melting off of her, and she's basically becoming naked before our eyes. So, you can use CosBond too, but I would also say to sew on top of the CosBond or use a reinforcer. If you can't sew and you hate it, use fabric glue, clamp it together, and walk away. I understand sewing is really difficult. Some people can't do it. Cool. But fabric glue, CosBond, probably the only ways you're going to avoid sewing. And even CosBond has its limitations with the types of fabric that you can use it on. If you're going to have sleeves and stuff like that, fabric glue, clip, walk away. Really, fabric glue is the only thing. Or heat and bond, something that you're ironing the glue into the fabric. Something that's made for flexibility and durability in that instance. But yeah, hot glue and pants or clothes or dresses in Arizona, they don't work. They don't work. Where's my folder? Okay, there's the folder. All right. So anyways, so the next big build I did was in 2015, and I helped. So we did a Borderlands cosplay group, and it was a Borderlands like pre-sequel and Borderlands 2 kind of mashup. And so I helped Moxie make her dress, and we used this really unusual like ribbed fabric, and I learned that ribbed fabric eats through your needles, so have very sharp needles when you're using ribbed fabric. And if it's stretchy, instead of doing sharp needles, do like the ballpoint needles because they can just go through it really easily. But we figured out how to make it, and she ended up using E6000 to glue a lot of like the accessories to it, because we weren't having an instance where she was going to become naked, and we knew how dangerous hot glue was in Arizona. So for her, it was pretty easy. What we did is we took her measurements, and then we made like a larger mock-up, and then we took it in, and when she wore all of her belts and everything, it ended up looking awesome. We also helped Ellie with her commission. We laid down my mom. She wore pillows on her body because she wasn't big enough to be Ellie. We laid her on the ground. We traced it out. We added 2 inches to all the seam allowances. And then she hand stitched all of this together. And then she sewed 7 bras together to create Ellie's massive chest. I will show you these pictures. They are hilarious. But we had to get a little creative with Ellie because she's such a big character, and my mom didn't want to carry too much weight, so we just took really light pillows, sewed them together, threw them on, and she had a fat suit with pillows. For me, I decided to do Nisha the Lawbringer. I did everything from scratch except for the hat, but the hat I even took apart and modified. And so I made her jacket from scratch. I hand painted it. I learned how to take the fabric textile medium and mix it with high quality acrylic paints and paint it on and heat seal it. I hand drew her shirt. I can draw. If you can't draw, I recommend printing out onto like iron-on paper or something like that. There's a lot of that available. I got some Rust-Oleum, and I painted the hat, and I bought some kids' guns. I ripped out the electronics and only made it to where the lights worked. So I disabled a flashlight that was on the top, and I also disabled the sound diode. So I had to learn a little bit about electronics so that I could get the lights to flash in the way that I wanted them to. I'm photosensitive, so I can't have really stroby lights. And so I had to learn how to slow down these lights, and that was interesting. I used a lot more foam this time around, so I learned a lot more about foam. I did use a bot pattern, but this time I remembered, hey, my body's longer, so I elongated everything, and I added a much bigger seam allowance. I even went 2 sizes up because it was much easier to take in and take out. My cat helped me. This time too, this costume was lined, so I sewed it, and then I actually had double layers, and I lined my costume. Yay! I also used bias for the first time. There was a lot of firsts in this one, but it turned out really nice. And this is the fabric textile painting medium. I use Americana, but there's a lot of different ones that you can do. I did print out a picture for reference so I could draw it on. Having reference photos is really important. This was the first time too where I was making the leg armor, and instead of cutting it apart, I just cut channels into it, and then I used a contact cement and folded it in so that there were no outside seams, and that was really, really cool. That made the armor so much easier to wear. I did learn that painting on jeans makes them a bit stiffer, so if you're going to paint on jeans, I recommend painting, letting it dry for 24 hours, heat sealing it, let it dry for another 24 hours, then wash the snot out of it. And it makes it a lot softer that way. But yeah, I really had so much fun doing the Borderlands group. So let me show you guys the pictures for that Borderlands group because I'm sure you'd like to see them. Let me find, I think it was 2015. So Borderlands, here we go. So we mentioned Ellie, and this is what Ellie ended up looking like in the end. She's wearing her 7 bras. She bought like an 8XL t-shirt to put around all the pillows because she ended up bringing another set of pillows. She had them on her legs and like on her upper body. She had like one pillow all across her upper body along with the 7 bras. So this costume was incredibly heavy, and this is my mom. Okay, so she's wearing a really heavy costume. This was Moxie that we worked on together. Ended up looking great. All the belts and buttons, and like I said, she used E6000 to glue on her little arm paints, and then she didn't know about the fabric textile medium, so she painted this with acrylics, so she turned into like a dry clean only situation, but that's okay. If you can't dry clean your costumes, you can use stuff like I have Audubon, which is a fabric disinfectant. You can spray that on and let it dry for 24 hours, or you can do 1 part water, 1 part vodka, and 1 part some kind of aromatic oil that you enjoy, and you can spray that on your costume and let it air out. And it's a great way to get it all nice and clean. And then this was the first time I made Nisha. I'll show you the improved version of Nisha. So this is my first attempt at Nisha. It didn't turn out too bad. It was really fun to wear. We enjoyed ourselves. We had lots of fun being the Borderlands characters, but we learned that some of our outfit pieces were heavy. I had legitimate chains, and when metal started being not permitted at conventions, I then had to switch out to a plastic chain. So I believe it was in 2016, we decided, okay, we're going to do our Borderlands again, but we made improvements. And my brother joined us as well as like a cybernetic version of Wilhelm. He called himself Wilhelm. And he had way too much fun. He took a bunch of parts from thrift stores, right? And he just glued them and epoxied them to this body armor. And he created a rotating cannon from like servos, from like leftover like kitchenware. So you can get pretty creative with found objects. But this time around, I had printed pants that I had custom ordered. I improved the fit on my leg armor. It was a lot easier to wear. I changed out the chain for something that was lightweight and was permissible in cons. I also took the length of my jacket and cut it up by a full 3 inches because Nisha's is shorter than I realized. And that ended up being a much better representation. For Ellie too, what we ended up doing is we changed out her pillows because the weight of it last time had made her very sick. And so we just changed it out. We brought in tapered her leg more because the character's legs are super tapered in. It's really weird. And for Moxie, we just helped her with finding her contacts, and she improved her makeup a little bit more. And then we also had a little tiny Tina. And so I also helped Tiny Tina, but she did a lot of she was really brilliant. She bought like 6 different pieces of outfits, right? And she just cut them up and really, really quickly sewed them together. And hers with primarily found objects. It's really fun to take found objects and upcycle them. So Borderlands is perfect for that because it has that very like steampunk, otherworldly look. But you can elevate pretty much any fabric with some paint or some, by bleaching it, redying it. There's a lot that you can do to elevate if you can't necessarily afford to buy fresh fabric. So I've gone through a lot of information. I've shown you guys kind of like the beginning of my costumes. So you've seen where I started, and now this is kind of where I am today. So today I've been going for a lot more complex looks. For instance, in 2020, before the pandemic happened, I got a really fun photo shoot with my Yojimbo. So let me go to Kikori, and then, oh gosh, here we go. And Yojimbo is one that, this is where my sponsorship started kicking in, right? So the cosplaysupplies.com reached out to me and asked if I was interested in testing out their Warbler's Cobra Cast art. So all of the shoulder pieces for Yojimbo are made from Warbler's Cobra Cast art. A lot of the detail work on the arms, the chest plate is made from Warbler's Cobra Cast art. The sword handles completely covered in it as well. It's very versatile. It's an amazing product. You can sew it. You can use it as a reinforcer. You can use it as armor. It has this really cool texture that's also pretty easy to hide. It kind of has like a carbon fiber texture. So if you're painting it and you want that kind of carbon fiber texture, that's what it has. But it was really easy to seal. It was much easier to work with than Warbler. And because Warbler's Cobra Cast art has a mesh in it, it stretches but never tears. And I love it. Like, I freaking love it. But Yojimbo was one of those like highlighting achievements where I had sewing in here. I had fabric painting. I learned how to use iron-on vinyl. I learned how to use silicone caulk for a full sealant. I learned how to style a wig. I learned how to use magnets. It was intense. I also used wood for the second time in a costume. The blade is made out of balsa wood, and it was just body paint, pretty much anything, casting. Yeah, basically every cosplay skill. It's like in here. In this one costume. Every cosplay skill. It was wild. But I'd say Yojimbo is like one of the crowning achievements for the costumes I've made. But there's also, I went to Level Up Expo. There's also a really, really, oh wait, hang on a second. It's going to be over here. I also started doing foam wigs for the first time with Maya the Siren from Borderlands. I love Borderlands, and I really, really liked the Borderlands 3 Maya the Siren. And I wanted to kind of create like a messy version of her hair out of foam. And so for the first time, I created a wig out of foam. So let me open these photos so I can share them a lot closer up for you guys. But this was another one too, where I used a combination of found objects and materials that I had left over. The only things I had to buy for this costume was a bodysuit, and I painted it with leather paint. So I think I've got a full image here. Let me go here. Where is it? All right. So here I have a bodysuit that I bought, and it's like a dance suit, and I had to cut it out. I had to modify the zipper. I had to add snaps to the crotch because I like to use the bathroom. I took a pair of really old pleather pants. I removed the waistband from it. I brought the whole pants up. I changed the crotch level. I lengthened the legs. I painted the pants with her kind of like, I made it a gold accent, but they're a little bit different in the game. I wanted real leather jackets, so I took 2 store-bought skirts an extra large, completely took them apart, and then made a jacket out of them with a hood. I painted that using Angelus leather paints. I made armor out of foam. The wig is completely made out of foam. I made a belt out of this spandex fabric, and I made my own pouch so that I could carry my phone. And then for the arm, for her tattoos, I took a compression sock and I painted it with a combination of fabric paint and strontium aluminate. So when I charge this in the sun and I go anywhere that has any shadow, the arm glows in the dark. And it's really, really cool. But this was just another one of those costumes that I was super scared to make. I wasn't sure I could do it. And it turned out way better than I expected. The thing with the foam wig, though, is it's incredibly light and it kept flying off my head. So what I did is I bought a fetish cowl and I modified the zipper on the back of it so that I can completely zip myself out of it. I cut out the face and then I tape it under my chin so that it's secure. And I attached the foam wig to the front 3 inches of that cowl. And then what I do is I can just lift the wig up a little bit, unzip myself, and pop the whole thing off like it's just a hat. And that was the best way for me to actually get the foam wig to stay in place. I also had to cut holes for my ears because you can see her ears in the game. So, you kind of have to get a little creative and crafty and interesting sometimes when it comes to your cosplays, but don't be afraid to do it. It's okay. We're getting to the last 3 minutes of this stream. If you have any questions, please let me know. But overall, the things I'd like to leave you with is I do intend to keep cosplaying coming up here soon. I'm still working on my Mandalorian Merida. I slowed down on her just because I wanted it to be perfect. And so I do intend to have her done before the end of the year. I'm aiming for Tucson Comic-Con, and whether it happens or not, that's when I want to have her done by. But currently I'm working on a Toothless by Sunset Dragon, and I'm making really good progress on that. I also happen to have picked up a jacket of Nora Valkyrie from season 7 that the wonderful Mikaria Drake made for me. So I still need to make the arm sleeves and the leg sleeves, and I still need to make all the armor for that. But I'm really close to having the Nora Valkyrie from Ruby season 7 complete. So this year you'll have Nora Valkyrie from Ruby season 7 that I'm going to be releasing a tutorial on. You'll have Toothless from Sunset Dragon that I'll be releasing a tutorial on, and you'll also have Mandalorian Merida that I'll be releasing a tutorial on. I have 2 other costumes that are in my list that I do intend to get complete, but it just I will see whether or not I have the tutorials released. But I'm going to have 3 tutorials coming out here in the next 3 to 6 months. I actually want to release 1 tutorial by the end of next month. Instructables reached out to me and was like, hey, when are you going to do more tutorials? And I'm like, in a month. So I'm thinking what I'll do is by the end of next month, I'll have my Toothless tutorial released, and I'll show you what I did to change that. I started painting the bodysuit. You guys have seen that. But the corset back for that bodysuit for Toothless is terrible. So I bought a corset back for wedding garments, and I will be replacing it with that. Thank you all for joining me today. It's been fun. I will be, as a heads up, Sabotin was cleared this year. I will be attending Sabotin. I have been asked to do workshops and panels, and they've been submitted. From what I understand, mask wearing will be required, and vaccinations might even be required. We're not sure yet. But just a heads up that is happening. Sabotin is happening, so make sure you get your tickets. Make sure you support the con. Other than that, I will be on CosTalk Live tomorrow, and we'll be featuring Original Glaze, which is a brand new cosplay social media site for cosplayers by cosplayers dedicated to cosplayers. Really awesome. And see you later, Chris. Thank you for joining the stream. And yeah, I really hope Tucson Comic-Con happens. I mean, things are starting to look on the bright side. Numbers are going down. I'd like to see all of you again because I miss all of you guys. But if you are looking forward to some of my tutorials, I will be releasing those, at least one of them in the next month. And then I will actually be preparing for panels. But again, join me tomorrow at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and Pacific Time, I think, Pacific Daylight, for the Chat with the Original Glaze, the cosplay social media site. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to wear tomorrow. I haven't decided if I want to be KDA more Ari or if I want to be another costume that you guys don't know about that I just had hidden in the back of my closet. I don't know. We'll let you know. But thank you for joining me. If you want to learn more, if you want to get in contact with me, go to www.thermocosplay.com. You can contact me through the form there, or you can reach out to me on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. I hope you have a wonderful Saturday, and thanks for going on this journey with me. Bye, everybody.